Okay, this is Kellan Fluckiger. We are here tonight for Results on a Rampage, and we are going to talk tonight about results. For those of you that might want to join our hangout tonight, the green room link or the film strip link will be in the event page in just a moment, and we're going to talk about how you measure results tonight. Results, of course, are the key element of success. If you don't know or you don't achieve the result you're trying to get to, then we haven't successfully, you haven't, I haven't successfully created the outcome that we wanted. So one of the key pieces of results that are often overlooked is measuring them appropriately. So for example, if I'm making a trip and I am trying to get from San Francisco to Alaska, if I don't know where in Alaska I'm going, I won't know when I get there. Any port will do. I won't likely get to the destination that I'm trying to get to. If I'm making an airplane trip, same thing. You have to have, first of all, a really clear idea. So my first question is I want you to think about how you measure results. And while you think about that, I want to talk a little bit about the purpose of Results on a Rampage. Results on a Rampage is a phrase that I came up with in my coaching practice some years ago, thinking about the kinds of results that people want. It's easy to use the word result. Result is an outcome that we create. Sometimes we talk about bad results, and sometimes we talk about good results. That's not really what I mean when I'm talking about results here. There can be outcomes that are unexpected, unplanned, and perhaps even unpleasant. But results, when we're talking about it here, particularly in a personal development sense or in a business sense, for example, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, are creating the outcomes that you intend. So for example, it's almost New Year's here. Many people at this time of year, the end of the previous year, the beginning of next year, they set some goals for themselves. Sometimes we jokingly call those New Year's resolutions. We usually do that when we mean that we're not going to achieve them, or we're not going to put a lot of effort or energy into making them happen. And then we joke that they only last a week or two. Unfortunately, that's true, but that's not what we're talking about here. Results on a Rampage is also the name of a book that I have written that talks about something called the results equation. The results equation, and it is a the results equation is a five-part process that I developed, a proprietary model to create big results in any area of your life. Now, what I'd like to do here is extend some invitations to some people that were just finishing up my 2-day book challenge. And so I'd like to get that done.
I've done it.
Oh, all right. Joy just tells me she's done it, so that's fantastic. I was going to feature them in for a minute to ask some questions about their experience and about the results that they achieved. So let's get back to the fundamental question. How do you measure results? A result consists principally of two parts. First of all, what you're going to get done. Do what? Now, a lot of times we'll say to someone, well, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to make more money, or I'm going to get a better job. Excuse me, and that's about as much definition as we give to the result. And so, by definition, those are not very good results for two reasons. One, you can pretend that you reach the result no matter what happens, because if you lose 1 pound, even if you need to lose 100, you say, I lost weight. I win. Or if you get a raise that's 2% or a slightly better job, you say, see, I got a better job. Never mind, I've got to work more hours or drive across town to get it. I got a better job. We often do that with our results because we're trying to make ourselves feel good. What we don't like is we don't like the feeling of making promises to ourselves, setting out objectives, making declarations, resolutions, whatever you want to call them, and then failing. Yet many, I won't say all of us, but perhaps nearly all of us have a habit of doing that. Often, or certainly from time to time. I'm going to do this tomorrow. Next week I'm going to clean the garage. Or whatever it is, paint the house, You know what I'm talking about, and you'll immediately recognize some of those feelings about things you tell yourself you're going to do. I saw a cartoon the other night, and it was quite funny. You know, it was a gal, and she was cartoon in bed going to sleep, covers up over, and she was just drifting off to sleep, and you could see the thought in her mind, tomorrow's the day, I can just feel it. I'm going to get up, go to the gym, work out, and start an entirely new life. And then, of course, the next frame showed the alarm clock at 5:30 in the morning or whatever it was, and her hand on top of it, you know, smashing the snooze button saying, yeah, not. And so all of us will recognize that kind of pattern for creating results, not really. Okay? So the first key piece in how you measure result is to be really specific. Really specific. Exactly what does the result look like? Exactly what does the result look like? So I've got a note here. Oh, all right. I need to... we posted I've got to post this link somewhere. Hold on just a second. All right. It is in the my page, KFI page, and the link should be in there in a second. All right. So we have to figure out exactly what a result looks like. Okay? And if you're losing weight, that would be a precise number of pounds. So I use that example because there was a time in my life when I had to lose nearly 100 pounds. I was in my 30s and I was, you know, very heavy, and I had to make some very, very specific goals. And the very specific goals had two parts, not only a number of pounds, but also a date. So I have to lose 90 pounds, and I have to do that in 10 months, okay, or a year. I can't actually remember, so that was 20 years ago, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But the answer to creating a result that's measurable is to do what by when. Do what by when. And if you want to write something down, that would be it. The first characteristic of a goal or measuring a result in an appropriate way is to define exactly what it is and when it will be done. By this date, I will have $10,000 in my savings account. By this date, I will have finished these classes at school. By this date, I will have finished this associate degree program or bachelor's program. And you give yourself a do what by when. That's the first kind of measurement that's necessary in clarity to make sure that you achieve results that are measurable, about how you measure results. The second part of that is, particularly if the goal is out there very far, if it's 6 months or more, then, and even I would say even 3 months or more, if it's 3 months away or more, then you need milestones. Because one of the characteristics that I see in myself and in many people that I coach is our infinite, almost infinite ability to procrastinate. You all remember the days in college when you had reports due and you would start on them, you know, 1 or 2 nights before and do 3 or 4 weeks worth of work crammed into one night. Turn it in, maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't, maybe you got a good grade, maybe you didn't, but we have this tendency to procrastinate. That kind of procrastination results in inferior results. And so that's a really important piece of achieving results that are measurable. First, it's do what by when, and second, it is milestones. Every big project in every company has milestones. There was a time when I was in charge of some software development at electric utility that I worked at. We were replacing the control system. And that kind of replacement costs many, many millions of dollars and takes some, you know, lengthy period of time, a couple of years to design it, build it, test it, and put it in service. So all the way along there were milestones, and I participated. I headed up actually the team to do all of the in-place testing and all of that sort of thing, so I was very familiar with that. But no large corporation or even medium size would make any kind of a significant goal without milestones. Neither should you. So if you have a goal that's more than 90 days or more away, you should absolutely have 30 and 60-day milestones for the simple reason that you know whether or not you're on track. If you're not on track at 30 and not on track at 60, the likelihood of hitting 90 as a bullseye is almost none. So as an example, for right now, what I want to do is we've just been joined by a couple of people that participated in my 2-day book challenge. The 2-day book challenge is a unique and interesting challenge that I hold for people who want to write a book and who, for some reason, haven't done it yet. Those reasons are all too common. I don't have time. I don't know where to start. I have no idea how to do this. I don't know exactly how to organize my thoughts. I'm scared. Nobody's going to like it, and 100 other reasons that we tell ourselves that we use effectively to not get started. So what I started doing about 3 months ago is I started setting aside 2 days in which I would coach heavily people through a process to organize their thoughts, create what I call a story arc, and then actually get a book written or very nearly written in that 2-day process to sort of get rid of all the excuses and overcome all the obstacles. Writing a book used to be this esoteric, complicated thing that only a few people could do. It's just not that way anymore. Anyone can write and publish a book if they want to these days. So I've been joined by a couple of people who just finished the 2-day book challenge. Today was day 2, and I want to give them a chance to express their thoughts and feelings about what they did and what happened. And the reason this is appropriate for Results on a Rampage is if you think about writing a book, that's a big deal. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't even know anybody who'd written a book. And so books were these things that were in the library, and somebody somewhere wrote them, but I had no idea how to get that kind of result. And so having created this system for writing a book, I have invited a couple of people here that have participated in that and made it successfully. Farinaz, do you want to talk about for just a moment what your experience was in the last couple of days?
Well, actually very good, because first of all, you are with a group, you're getting information, the methodology, and how to make it systematic, because I especially, I'm a person who likes to have those methods to work systematic, first to A to Z, you know. And I had I have a blog for a long time, 3-4 years, and one part of that blog was my life story. So I decided that I want to make a book out of it, because that was just a part, short stories and so on. So this gave me this. Your group and yourself gave me the opportunity to actually look at this seriously and make the outline, you know, as we did, and go step by step forward and see the results. So I think the next steps, today you were talking about the marketing of that and all that. It's a bit scary, but I'm sure, you know, that's another step that we'll learn and we'll do it. I mean, I will with the group.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us today. Stephanie, do you want to talk about your experience today and yesterday?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, I want to say thanks to Kellan and to Farinaz and everybody in the group, because it was a really great group to go through the process with. All the things you talked about, Kellan, which were, I don't have the time and nobody's going to like it and I don't know what to say anyway. Those were all things I was afraid of at the beginning. And I think that the way that you structure the challenge, which is don't look any further forward than the next couple of hours. Here's the only thing I want you working on next, works really well to help you get past those fears, because you don't have time to worry about it, right? You're just focused on, okay, what do I have to do before I talk to Kellan again, because this man scares me and he's not going to let me get away with a bunch of bullshit. And so to me, that was one of the best things about the challenge is even if you're not 100% sure, Kellan is there saying, okay, you know what, just stop screwing around, decide, do something. And once you get that success of, okay, I can actually do this, I can actually start and write a chapter, oh my gosh, now I've written an entire section, you actually kind of create your own success because you see the results and you say to yourself, oh, but why would I stop now? You know, I'm so close, I've almost gotten it done. At least that's where I ended up today. I'm not totally done, but I'm really close and I'm excited to finish. So.
Thank you very much for that. So both of them and the others that are on the group, not all of them could come to this hangout tonight, but both of them are to be congratulated for first having a clear, measurable result, knowing what they wanted to do, and then being willing to take the steps, being willing to make the commitment and move that forward. So if writing a book is something that interests you, there is a place that you can go if you'd like to participate in a future book challenge. It is www.speedtoprofitmarketing.com/book challenge. And I'll put that link in the event page for anyone that's interested in creating a book of their own and becoming one of the successful first-time or second-time authors that we've been able to help build through this program. So that's the first piece of figuring out measuring result, being really clear about the result and having it clear, do what, by when, and then being willing to take action. Now, there's another piece that I want to talk about, but before I do, I want to find out if any of our other panelists, George, our producer, or Rick, have any comments that they'd like to add about this part that we've talked about so far. No? All right, I don't see any mics unmuted, so let's move on to the next part. The next part is inevitably... Oh, George, go ahead.
Trying to unmute here. All right, I'm unmuted, it looks like. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm intrigued by hearing about the 2-day book challenge, but what really appeals to me the most is the fact that you've created a container for measurable results so people can have an experience step by step, never mind being freaked out or what ifs. This is what's in front of you right now. Take care of this. And that's the best advice for any vision or project we have. You always keep your eye on the prize. We know we're writing a book, but our narratives can drive us crazy about the what ifs. I don't know how. So the idea is to write down your goal. One, write a book. Revisit that every day, multiple times a day, but then ask yourself, what's the next thing? What's the next logical step forward for my writing my book? And it seems like what you have in your 2-day book challenge is the condensed, intensified, magnified process of asking and answering that question over and over until you're ready to publish.
Great, thank you. Well, it is, and one of the things that I wanted to do in creating the challenge and using it as an example of creating results on a rampage, I mean, the idea of writing a book in 2 days would terrify most people and think about, not just terrify, but it would be, well, no way I can do that. But the point here is you can do a lot. It's simply a given that you can do a lot more than you think you can. Okay, that's a given. Your capacity is not tapped out. And so, as George commented, creating a container is simply taking the experience that I have and the coaching practice and skill that I have to make an environment for those that are willing to sort of jump in and turn the reins over to me for a couple days, to create something that I actually know they can do, but they don't know that yet. And then being the boundary, being the bounce, the buffer, the sort of, the ropes at the end of the ring as they sort of dance around, sometimes with worry and sometimes getting out of order, worrying about the end before they've got the beginning started and all that. But having done this a lot of times, I recognize all that and can help them do this and create a safe and forward momentum environment to get that done. And that is a key. And so I'm using it today as an example, not just of what these great people did in writing a book that you've just heard from, but also to help you understand as the listeners that getting yourself to massive results can be done the same way. So what did we actually do here? We captured people that had a particular desire. So if you have a particular desire, writing it down, getting specific, do what by when is the first step. We talked about that. Step 2 is finding an environment or path that will lead you to that in spite of your narratives that will block you. So we all have barriers, obstacles, blocks. I call those BOBs. No offense to anyone named Bob, but B-O-B, all caps, barriers, obstacles, and blocks. And I talk about blasting BOBs, right? Blasting away your barriers, obstacles, and blocks. Sometimes that's really hard to do alone. Sometimes it's really hard to do, to stare in the mirror and just psych yourself up into, a workout regime every day for 6 months if you need to get in shape, and it's a big deal for you. Or writing a book, and people start. I can't tell you the number of people that I've talked to that have started a book or started a big creation project like that, and they get a day or a week into it and they lose energy. I had a potential client one time that I was interviewing, and they turned out not to be a fit for the program, and I'll tell you why. It was just exactly what we're talking about. This particular fellow was a filmmaker, and he wanted to make Hollywood films. And the part that was holding him back was that he hated editing. Well, editing is a tedious, long process where you have to figure out exactly where to cut the film and exactly how to frame the shots, and so that the film flows smoothly and the excitement, is at the right places and the cuts are in the right places and so forth. And so as we talked through the issue, and he was applying actually to be in part of my coaching program, he could not get past the fact that some parts of creating our results may not be fun. He wanted each step of the process to be fulfilling and fun, and I tried to make an example by saying, a carpenter may love a finished house, but I find it a real stretch to believe that he loves pounding each of the 16,000 nails that go into building that house. And rather than acknowledge that that was so, he immediately came back, well, maybe there's someone that likes 16,000 nails. And when we got to that point, I realized that this was someone that actually did not want to learn to make feature films and did not want to learn to sort of push through some of the less interesting parts by keeping a vision or a result focused on the beauty of the outcome of the piece of art that he might be creating. So, number one, do what by when. Number two, create a path or find a path from where you stand right now to that result, and that path will often be best facilitated by some proven method or help. Someone that's already walked from where you are to there and is willing to help you, either as a coach, a mentor, or if it's another process that you can do by yourself, you can do that. Self-help, do it yourself. Do-it-yourself projects sometimes turn out like assembling IKEA furniture. You have 19 calls to the helpline if you do a typical assembly project. But some do-it-yourself things work. So get your goals clear, pick the path, get the help you need, and stay focused on the joy of the outcome as you think about completing the project. Don't forget to create measurable milestones as you go along the way, so that you can not only measure the result and see that you're on track, but then you have a place to stand and stop and turn around and say, wow, I've come a long way. That's one of the purposes of the frequent check-in calls that we do during the 2-day book challenge, is to give everybody a chance to report. Hey, I did 2 chapters. Hey, I got my outline completely done, and I'm really happy. I'm really excited about how this feels. That, reporting on that and creating that feeling is really a powerful incentive to completing the project. So I'm going to take just a minute here and find out if there are others, anyone on the panel at this point, that might have either an experience to share or some wisdom to impart about the process of setting goals and of making these achievements. Any comments?
I've got one.
Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead, Rick.
I appreciate that, Kellan, that you talk about joy, about the joy of the completion or the joy of the process. And what it reminded me of is that when I wasn't part of the book challenge, but when I am doing projects like this, the joy for me is in the deliverable and seeing the response that it brings to people and the way that it affects them, and that moment brings a lot of joy and reminds me of why I'm working so hard and doing the stuff that may be not very exciting at the moment. Thank you for mentioning that.
Great, thanks very much, Rick, for your comment there. Joy, go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, I think I'm on as you. But anyway, part of it is I really appreciate this. While I didn't write a book, I used the time for accountability sessions. So every 2 hours having to check in, accountables to what I've done, what I said I was going to do, and make that congruent and line up has been really helpful. And I find that in these 2 days, I get as much done as I do in a week of not having these 2-hour check-ins. I mean, we're all big boys and girls, so you think, well, okay, I've got to get this done today, but it's just something about the accountability when you have to, appear in the film strip and say, I either did it or didn't do it. It's really powerful. So I really appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you very much for those comments. So let's just recap here for just a minute. We're talking about how you measure results. Well, you can't measure results unless you know specifically what they are, number one. You cannot hold yourself accountable to results unless you know when you're supposed to have them done. So do what by when is the first piece. The second part is to figure out a path, a likely path from where you stand today to the goal that you want to achieve. In the case that we're talking about today is finishing writing a book. But it could be anything. It could be health-related, business-related, wealth-related, relationship-related, and you set an intentional and specific goal at some point in the future and a likely path to get there. Creating intermediate milestones is a critical piece of this, so you know if you're still on target and if you need to make adjustments. Stopping periodically to turn around, see how you've been doing behind you, and enjoying that moment of satisfaction for what you've created up till there is a critical piece of it. And then having an accountability framework, either an accountability group, sometimes we call those masterminds, a coach, or other system that will hold you accountable. There is no question you will get more done faster with that kind of system set up for you, an accountability system or a coach, than you will get done on your own. We simply perform better when we know someone's watching, and we have to report on those. So that's the episode tonight of Results on a Rampage, and about measuring results and creating the kind of results that will lead you to powerful places. To close, I want to remind you of one thing that became evident in the comments that we had tonight, and that is you are capable of far more than you realize. You are capable of far more than you're currently producing. I have yet to meet the person who is absolutely producing at maximum capacity or even close to maximum capacity. We all have more that we could do and more enjoyment that we could have in the doing. I'm not talking about busyness or frantic activity for its own sake. I'm talking about producing those results that are part of the legacy we want to create and the life we want to live. Thanks again for attending tonight, and we'll see you next time on Results on a Rampage.